Arcade Heroes.
Greetings, it's Adam with ArcadeHeroes.com, and well, it's been quite a slow summer, and not just for the arcade business as far as how things have been going at a lot of locations out there, as I mentioned in another video, but just for news in general, which is kind of standard. You know, there's usually not a lot of developments that are released during the summertime just because they aim to have things out either at the beginning of winter, which is where they showed games at IAAPA, a giant trade expo, or in the spring when they have another trade show and they want to have equipment out for the summertime. And so, yeah, that's where I just haven't done a lot of these news videos. But today we can change that thanks to the news of Angry Birds Boom debuting at IAAPA Expo Europe 2024, which begins tomorrow over in Amsterdam. So let's take a look at this new game from Raw Thrills and Play Mechanics. Now, if you're a regular reader of ArcadeHeroes.com, then you know that we've seen stuff about this previously. Oops, let me zoom in again here so that you can read that better or see that better. But there was a teaser trailer for this that appeared on Friday afternoon. I decided to hold off because as I contacted Raw Thrills, they wanted to wait until today to give out all the information on it and figured out, let's just wait. People that are already subscribed to Raw Thrills' channel could see the trailer, which is right here embedded into the site here, but then we'll have the official trailer, which launched this morning. After the official trailer, that's when I had to go and add in some extra stuff there. But let's take a look at this trailer and go from there. Play Mechanics and Raw Thrills presents, along with Rovio. Now, I did ask my contact at Raw Thrills about the Rovio Sega thing. She actually wasn't aware of that, but I guess Rovio still has the wherewithal where they can approve stuff without, you know, it needing to have the Sega name on it. And sorry, let me pause here because this is in potato quality. So let's go back. All right. So there's the cabinet. We'll take a deeper look at that here in a moment. And I guess that is Red and Chuck. I was not well versed enough into Angry Birds lore to know their names until I read the press release for this today. But as you can see, you get to fire your Angry Birds off as bullets instead of it just being one at a time and getting only, say, 3 chances. Now you can just spray and pray your birds. Spray and pray your avian bombs. Now, interestingly enough, the screenshots that I received were not 4K. They were 1080p, so maybe that's why they're not pushing the 4K thing. So there you go. Nice animated trailer for that. Now, of course, this is not the first time that Angry Birds has shown up in the arcade industry. If you go on ArcadeHeroes.com, the place for arcade news and information, then there's this post that we had from July 2015 that talked about this game, which you might have seen and played out there, especially if you're an Angry Birds fan. You've probably seen this at Dave & Buster's, where it was an exclusive to them for a while, and then it rolled out to other locations later on through the manufacturer ICE. But that one, you actually fired a ball at the screen and played something that was closer to the mobile game. But this particular game is actually in full exclusive. It's not based on any existing mobile game, from what Raw Thrills said. And again, I'm not well versed enough in Angry Birds gaming to know, you know, what all the different versions of that are. But here's one shot of the cabinet. I'll zoom out a little bit there, where you can see, you know, the form factor to this is similar to Nerf Arcade. Now, that doesn't mean that it is Nerf Arcade exactly. There are some differences, of course, but Raw Thrills has been using this design where they have this kind of open seat platform that connects to a screen with artwork on it for a while, and Nerf's not the only one to do that. This same sort of seat has been used in games like Space Invaders Frenzy and Bust a Move Frenzy, and seems like there's another one or two out there as well, but I'm just forgetting what they are now. But it still is a 65-inch screen, because I don't know that anybody really makes just 1080p screens anymore, at least for TVs. But you have the red LEDs and yellow LEDs on each side, which that's a nice touch to have the two different types. And then you have your shooters. Now these are potentiometer based, just like has been used in every single mounted gun game for ages by different companies, but it's similar to the Jurassic Park guns, if in case you need a good comparison. But they've changed the shells on these guns. Instead of being the Jurassic Park one or even the Godzilla ones, use the same internal technology, but the Godzilla ones have like a chain gun with glowing tubes and stuff, which is cool. But this one has the Angry Birds characters on there, Red and Chuck, respectively. And so this game should take up the same amount of space as a Nerf arcade. We'll go to the Raw Thrills page here in a moment to take a look at that. But before we do that, the game, as you saw there, it's curated by Play Mechanics for this experience. It's not Nerf Arcade. You get to fire off the birds at the pigs, so you can hit the pigs directly for points, but also there are all these 3D structures and the physics-based gameplay that you know and love when it comes to Angry Birds. Now, what's interesting about this one is there are 9 total scenes. A scene would be a level like this, but you don't get to choose from the scenes. Every time you credit up the game, it'll pick from a set of 3 scenes. You play through that, and then you fight one of the 2 bosses. And then next time you credit up, it'll pick a different set of 3 scenes that it hadn't previously, that it hadn't done just right than previously, and you get to play through those. And then the next time you credit up, it'll pick up from the next 3, and it just kind of cycles through those all day long. And so if you want to experience the full game, you'll have to play through 3 different times. But there are only 2 bosses. In the trailer, I only saw this King Pig one, which is in the screenshot. I don't know what the second one is, but that's what was mentioned, is 9 total scenes, 2 bosses, and that it has that sort of randomization going on between them. And I would assume that by defeating the boss in time before this timer runs out, that's how you get the big ticket bonus. Another thing to also bring up, speaking of tickets, is that this is not exclusive to tickets. So if you're a venue where you found certain redemption games actually perform better as only amusement games, arcade-only games, then you can change that in the settings and run it without doing tickets. But if you do that, it does not change the gameplay. There are certain games in Raw Thrills' past that they've done that are redemption games, like Galaga Assault, Space Invaders Frenzy, Bust a Move Frenzy, where if you turned it to non-ticket mode, as it would call it, then the gameplay would change entirely. It was a totally different game. But in the case of Angry Birds Boom, it is not. And so you get to play the same game, you just don't win tickets in that instance. And so there was actually 2 press releases sent out, but this particular one is about how Bandai Namco Amusements Europe and Raw Thrills will debut this at IAAPA Expo Europe. And so it just has some kind of the same information in there again, along with some quotes from James Anderson, the commercial and sales director at Bandai Namco Amusement Europe. The U.S. press release is a little bit different, but kind of gives you just all the same information, so there's not really any need for us to get into that. But let's hop over to rawthrills.com really quick and take a look and see what they've got there for the game. And so this, you can find this going to games, or it's on the homepage right now. And this also is kind of along the same lines, but here you get specs. Interestingly enough, they only have them, they are in inches, metric and imperial, I guess. And so I'd have to pull up Nerf Arcade to see if it's exactly the same dimensions, but again, I would assume that they're pretty close. Shipping dimensions usually aren't posted the same day as your unveils, and so those should show up a little bit later. The manual is not available yet. Like if I hover over this, the link shows that it just will reload the same page. So I also assume that'll be coming soon. And then kind of the same thing. Okay, so the second boss would be Foreman Pig. So we already saw King Pig, and then there would be Foreman Pig. And then the screenshots that were available in the media kit, they only have 4 of them. I only posted 2 to the post. I can post the other ones if anybody wants. And then you have the legal stuff, copyright and all that. So yes, this game, it's going to start production next month, and that means it should be available to arcades by IAAPA 2024, which is in November. And so I imagine there will be a few FECs that'll start having this before too long. And of course, we also know for sure that it's going to be in Europe, just because, you know, they Bandai Namco Amusements Europe has that there. Now, I guess I should explain that really quick, just in case you're not aware. It's like, why does Bandai Namco have anything to do with this? Especially where there's a Sega, or Sega owns Rovio, and Sega has nothing to do with shipping this game anywhere. So Bandai Namco Amusements Europe is more of a distribution company in Europe. They do some other things too. They do have some stuff to deal with Bandai Namco's developments. But working as a distribution company, that means that they sell arcade machines. And so, actually, let's pull up their website really quick. So, and at first glance, it just looks like a Bandai Namco site, but then you scroll down and then you start seeing games. But you'll notice that there are games that aren't Bandai Namco here on the featured products. Here's a Raw Thrills game, here's Adrenaline Amusements, another Adrenaline Amusements, and then you have a Bandai Namco game. And again, that's because they are a distributor. And so when it comes to territories and how sales of arcade machines are handled in territories, sometimes there are certain companies that have exclusive contracts with certain manufacturers, and so that's the case across Europe is Bandai Namco. With this particular company, that's where if you operate an arcade in Europe, then you have to, and you want to buy a Raw Thrills game or an Adrenaline Amusements game, as well as a Bandai Namco game, you have to go to these guys to get one of those games officially. And so that's why it's set up like this. And this is also something that pops up if you were to go to IAAPA 2024, or you watch my coverage of IAAPA, and I'm walking around the Bandai Namco Amusements booth, you keep seeing all these games from Adrenaline, from Raw Thrills, and as I always explain in those, and this is just for those who haven't seen one of these videos before, and you're new to this whole business, it's that's the reason why some of those other competitor games happen to be in Bandai Namco's booth. Now Sega, since I mentioned them, they also are a distributor in Europe, but they have deals with other companies like ICE or LAI Games. And so at IAAPA Expo Europe, which is happening this week again, that is where you'll see, I believe LAI Games' Smash DX racing game will be at Sega's booth, and that's because Sega is the official distributor for LAI Games product within the region of Europe. Hopefully that makes all sorts of sense, and that I didn't make it confusing. But either way, that is Angry Birds Boom, coming very soon to arcades, and again, an arcade exclusive version of that. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments below. What other games are you hoping to see here soon? And we'll catch you on the next video.